I want to take you back in time with me. Come with me back in time. We're going to go back to my living room several years ago. I was sitting in the living room of my home, beautiful dream home. Talk about dreams, as we've been talking about dreams this weekend. My dream home nestled in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. Deer, bear, bobcats, everything out our backyard. Great play spaces for my 4 kids. And I was sitting there doing something I'd done many, many times during my life. I was unpacking a box to repack another box because I was a military spouse. And I packed and I repacked and I packed and I repacked. And if you've ever moved a lot, you might have a little experience with that last box that never quite gets all the way unpacked. And so there I was, unpacking this box. It was a little different this time because every other time I'd gone through this box, the box of the curtains I bought 3 houses ago that were too expensive to get rid of but never fit again. And at the very bottom, those little tiny handprints when my 6'2" kids were about here, I just couldn't get rid of them. So there I am unpacking it, but every other time I'd gone through that box, I just repacked it and put everything back in. It had many, many stickers from many, many moves on it. And I took it with me from house to house. But this time was different. It was kind of sad, a little bittersweet because I was getting rid of all of those memories. I was going through this box because I was moving from my dream home of my marriage to my newly single home. I was going through a really difficult divorce, although if you've been divorced, you might know there's not much anything else other than difficult. And this was one of those. So as I unpacked, I threw the curtains away. I put the little handprints in boxes for my kids to take off to their own homes. And all of a sudden, at the very, very bottom of that box, I saw another box and I pulled it out. And I was immediately transported back 25 years earlier to my bridal shower because this was a bridal shower gift. Now, I don't know how they do bridal showers anymore, but back in my day, we all sat in a circle and everybody looked at the gifts and we oohed and awed and went on about our gifts. And it was just a fun thing. And at this bridal shower, my sister, my very older, wiser sister, she'd been married for 4 years, she was 23. I was 19, and she knew everything there was to be about getting married. In addition to that, I think she kind of like secretly designed Pinterest because her stuff was all Pinteresty. So this box was the most beautifully wrapped of all of them. And it came from my big sister. I grew up in a really large family, so she was 4 years older than me, and she kind of raised me. So I knew whatever this was, it was going to be the best, most fun gift ever. And so I started to unwrap it. And I carefully unwrapped it. Now, all the other gifts I ripped open because that's my personality style. But this one, I carefully unwrapped it. I carefully untied the bow. I actually kind of left it taped to the box because it was so pretty. And I started to take things out of this box. And the first thing I took out was a little bottle of oil. And that made sense to me. I was a little disappointed because it wasn't too much fun. And I set it aside. My father was a cabinet maker, so it was a big issue in our home. Every Saturday, we oiled the wood in the house to keep it nourished. So she was giving me some family tradition. The next little gift I pulled out was a little feather duster. And okay, I need to learn how to keep house. I wasn't a great housekeeper, so this was a housekeeping gift. I was a little disappointed, but okay. I understood it was for my good. Then I pulled out a little bottle of powder. That was confusing, honestly, because I didn't know what to do with this powder. And then I remembered, oh yes, Amelia Bedelia. Our family had a joke. I was Amelia Bedelia. I could cook like crazy, but clean was not my strength. So I really realized I was getting a housekeeping gift. So I continued to unpack oils, powders, feather dusters, all sorts of things. And I couldn't figure out what they were for. And as I sat there, surrounded by my sister on one side, my mom on the other side, and the very religious women from my upbringing, there started to be kind of like this tittering and giggling as I pulled out little bottles of oil and feather dusters. And I was embarrassed because I didn't know how to keep house. But as I kept going down to this box, I saw a little book at the bottom. And I knew if I could just get to that book, I could figure out this housekeeping gift. I could pack it away and be done with this embarrassment. And so when I pulled out that book, remember I was 19, I pulled out this book, and there were 2 people on the cover, kind of like this, and they were naked. And it said Kama Sutra 101. And oh my gosh, I wanted to die of embarrassment. Housekeeping was bad enough, but sex, seriously? So I quickly packed up the box, tied it up, wrapped it up, put it away, and moved it from house to house to house for 25 years. Now, I don't really think, as I pulled that box out, that it would have saved my marriage. I really don't. But what I looked at as I thought at that box, I thought that's like the gift of our personality style. We are given a gift at birth. We are wired a certain way to behave. That's our behavioral styles. And it is a gift. It's a gift that is given to us from the universe, from the Creator. And how we behave matches up to the gift that we've received. So although I threw that gift away, as I looked at that gift, I thought, that's my personality style. And that's where we're going to go today, is talking about the gift of your personality style. Because we're all gifted in a personality style. And the concept of behavioral styles or personality styles goes all the way back to Hippocrates, when he taught about melancholy, sanguine, phlegmatic, and choleric as the 4 humors that drove people's behavior. Even back then, all those thousands of years ago, people wanted to understand, why does he do what he does, and why does she do what she does? And that's how Hippocrates explained it. If we go even farther back to the ancients, way back to the ancients, they believed in 4 basic elements: earth, wind, fire, and air. Easy. Easy, easy. Earth, wind, fire, and water. 4 basic ones. And so all these years, thousands and thousands of history of years, we have tried to understand behaviors. Then we fast forward to the 1920s to a man named Carl Jung. You might have heard of him. He came up with the concept of introvert and extrovert. One of his people, his disciples, his students, was a man named William Marston. How many of you know William Marston? A few. I bet you know one of his most famous creations. He created the cartoon character Wonder Woman. However, he also wrote a book called The Emotions of Normal People in 1928. And that book is about this thick. Yes, I made it through it once. It is a theory, which is all behavioral styles are a theory. Now, as we have moved into the 21st century and we've done a lot of brain research because of traumatic brain injury, we have discovered that the profiles of personality and behavior styles actually match up to the wiring in our brain. So those ancients knew a lot more than we realized. And today we're going to work with William Marston's concept of the behaviors, the DISC, the D, I, S, and C. 4 basic behaviors. However, we're all a blend of those behaviors. None of us is just a DI or an IS or whatever our blends are. It's such a wide range, and it also goes back to what our upbringing is, what our circumstances are. When we're in different situations, we may behave differently, but we're wired a certain way. My oldest son, Mark, is, well, I'll let you figure it out. When he was about 5 years old, he came running home. Now, I was a young mom. I was 23, and he was so excited. I guess I was 24. He was so excited to tell me about what he was going to do when he grew up. Now, if you have children, you know your firstborn is brilliant and can solve the problems of the world at 5. And he was one of those kids. And he came running home. He said, Mommy, 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 I know what I'm going to be when I grow up. And being the fact that he was a firstborn, I'm like, yeah, of course you do. What are you going to do? Tell me about it so we can start planning on this. And I'm thinking, just all these things we have to do to get him ready for whatever his dream is. Even a 5-year-old has dreams. And he said to me, he said, Mommy, I'm going to grow up and be the president. Well, my little fun soul did not think this sounded like fun. So I said, okay, sweetie, you can do that. You can grow up to be the president. And I'm thinking law schools and scholastics and things I didn't excel at, but we could make it work. So I said, honey, you can be the president of the United States. Let's start thinking about that. And he put his little hands on his hip. He said, no, Mommy, not the president of the United States. I am going to be the president of the entire world. And I thought, why would you want to do that? And he said, well, Mommy, because if I do that, I get to tell everybody what to do, and they have to do it. And the world would be better. And that is our Ds, our directives. They are large and in charge. They understand the big picture. They have the gift of direction. Now, one of the things about our Ds is they think they're always right. And they usually are, so we want to listen to them. And I hear some laughter, so I know there's some Ds out there about always being right. This room, I think, is kind of heavy on the D side. They have the gift of direction. According to the research company People Keys, they make up about 3% of the American population. Their biggest fear is being taken advantage of. So if you're working with a D, be sure and honor their time and finances. They don't want to be taken advantage of or even have the perception that you might be taking advantage of them. So be sure and honor them. If you're not sure if you're a D, our Ds usually know, but just in case you're working with somebody else, you might be a D if someone in your childhood always said to you, don't be so bossy. They are large and in charge, lots of hands on their hips, lots of this and that. So you can recognize them pretty easily. They are fast-paced and task-focused, and they bring to us the gift of entertainment. Our I's, our intuitives, are the gift of entertainment. Now, I get to pick on I's because I happen to be a pretty high I, and we like to be the center of attention. It's just kind of fun. And when we embrace it, we do better. Again, embracing our gifts. My mom, who passed away this year, was the highest I on the face of the earth. I'm pretty sure, like, she ranked higher than anybody else if she had ever taken that profile. And as an I, we like to have fun. We bring the gift of entertainment to the world. And my mother was so much fun. She would often say to us on a Saturday morning, time to get this house clean. We were foster parents, and so lots of work to do. So we all knew if we just kind of hunkered down and worked for an hour or two, or hour, or half an hour, and then said, you know, Mom, we haven't been down to the creek in a while, or let's go play kickball, or as we got older, let's go shopping at the new boutique. Lickety-split, we would be out of our work clothes and on to something fun. They bring the gift of entertainment to the world. They are, according to People Keys, 11% of the North American population. The biggest fear of an I is the fear of loss of social recognition. Now, that may seem odd because I's typically like to be the center of attention, right? However, only when we feel safe. It's not until we feel safe that we can be our real authentic selves because we want people to like us. You might be an S if all of your life someone said to you, shh, don't talk so much. I cannot tell you how many times as a good kid I got in trouble for talking in class. Actually, the one time I went to the principal's office was from talking in class. So our I's bring the gift of direction to us. They tend to be very flamboyant. They dress in loud, wild clothes. They dress in ways to be noticed. And some of our I's will even, I have a friend who's a high I, she will wear cute shoes, even if they're painful, just because they're cute. Gift of entertainment. Our S's bring the gift of comfort to the world. Now, this is a good thing because S's make up about 69% of the population. So we want to be around S's. Now, this group, I've seen some of the statistics, we're kind of low on the S side. I happen to be a pretty high S, so it's just a difference, but 69%. And I'm so grateful for that because they bring the gift of comfort. We all have that true blue where we can pick up the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, life is hard, help me out. You know that friend, they're probably an S for you. When I was back in that difficult divorce, I had, for the first time in over 20 years, an entire 7-day period without children. I had been an active mother for 20 years, homeschooling my children with them surrounding me. And I had gotten through that first year of divorce where, the energy is so high, you don't have to sleep, and those of you who have been divorced kind of get that idea. So I was past that year of energy, and I was going to be a whole week without my children. So I called my best friend in North Carolina. I said, Dorothy, can you come see me? And then I realized, oh no, she doesn't fly. There's no way she can come see me. So I said, would you just be on call next weekend for me? Because it's going to be a hard week for me without my children. You're going to be fine, Jill, but yeah, I'll be on call. So Friday, I didn't go pick the kids up. 2 hours in, I'm starting to feel twitchy. What do I do with myself? What am I going to do? How am I going to get through this? So I pick up the phone and call Dorothy and say, hey, I got to talk. And she's like, I'm really sorry, I can't right now. Like, excuse me, you are my true blue. You're supposed to be on the phone. Call me in 2.5 hours, Jill. So 2.5 hours, I'm counting the minutes. 2 hours and 30 minutes later, I pick up the phone and call her. And she's like, Jill, give me 5 more minutes. Okay. Well, thankfully, at that moment, the doorbell rang. And I could go to the doorbell. And I could have somebody in my world because I was, didn't know what to do with all this space. And I opened the door. And guess what? It was my friend Dorothy. She had driven from North Carolina to Colorado in their little PT Cruiser to bring the gift of comfort to my life. We sat on the deck, we drank wine all night and coffee all day. No, not beer, coffee all day. And her husband, who was a high S as well, knew as a single woman I needed to be prepared. So he put together a toolkit for me. I'd never had a toolkit. High S's bring the gift of comfort to our life. You might be an S if anyone ever said to you, you're not living up to your potential. Yeah, in school we get that a lot as S's. We're just not quite living up to our potential. An S's greatest fear is the fear of conflict. We have a really hard time getting into that place of standing up for ourselves sometimes. We don't want conflict. So my best suggestion if you're an S is to go ahead and take that risk, step out of your comfort zone because it's a great wide world out there. And then we come to our incredible C's. When I grow up, or in my next lifetime, I'm coming back as a C and a neurosurgeon. And those two go together really well because our C's are very detail-oriented. They bring the gift of order to our lives. They're the ones the D's need because D's got the big picture, but they don't know how they're going to get there. So they need those C's. One of my children is a high C. He is my only C in the entire family. None of the rest of us have it. And I have to admit, if you watch in his room, you would not know that it kind of looks like a tornado hit it. But he is so detail-oriented in academics. He was determined to get a full ride scholarship, which he did. And if you look in his room, if you can get past all of this, up to here are all the notebooks that he has that are color-coded and tagged and flagged and I don't know what else, and his little row of pens that are color-coded. He has a high C and brings order out of chaos. Our C's are invaluable to our world. And they make up, there's 3, 11, 79. Okay, so there are no C's in this room. I just discovered that. Because usually, as I'm counting, I've never even made it all the way to 69%. They're yelling at me, it's 17%, it's 17%. Our C's make up about 17% of the population. And they bring the gift of order. A C's greatest fear is the fear of making a mistake. They do not like to be wrong. So please don't ever corner a C and tell them that they're wrong. Find a gentler, kinder way to do that. And you might be a C if someone ever said to you, don't be such a perfectionist. And if you're a C, please don't procrastinate for perfection. Remember, only 17% of the population are C's. The rest of the world's not even noticing the little flaws that you see. So let go of that and move on. Everyone walks around with this sign that says, make me feel important. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could know by just one question what somebody's personality style is? So you can meet the directive, the intuitive, the comforting people, and our orderly people where they live. I know in this group that's what we want. We want to serve the world. We want to make a difference. And if we are caught up in who we are and trying to connect with people from where we are rather than where they are, we're not going to make the kind of difference we want to make. We may make a drop in the puddle, but to make those huge waves that we want to make, we've got to meet them where they are. So it doesn't work real well to walk over to somebody and say, hey, would you take this profile? I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with how to deal with you. You know, yeah, I'm looking at your eyes, you're like, excuse me? Yeah, so it's a little bit challenging to do that, so we don't want to do that. So with one question you can learn what that is. Do you guys want to know the question? Oh, yeah. Got your pens up? Okay, so the question is, tell me a little bit about yourself. Because everybody is going to answer differently. It's great, you know, for those networking things that we all just love to go to as business owners. It's a great question because it makes somebody feel important, first of all, because you're asking about them, and then immediately you're going to know the response as to their personality style, and you can adjust your conversation to that. So the D is going to tell you about their achievements. They're going to tell you maybe where they went to school or what awards they recently got, or if they're the #1 realtor of the city, or all of those things that D's care about, those achievements. Because remember, they are task-focused and faster-paced. So they're going to tell you about achievements, and they're going to do it really fast, so you better pay attention. D's are pretty easy to tell because they go in and talk in bullet points. They're very quick. Then our I's. This is what's going to happen when you ask an I about, tell me about yourself. Now, honestly, usually our I's you can tell because they're dressed, you know, they have bling on. They can tell, you know, just by the way they look if they're an I. But just in case you're not sure, this is how an E is going to answer. Oh my gosh, you know what? I'd love to tell you about it, but I have this story I have to tell you about first. And then before I can tell you the story, I have got to tell you about what happened yesterday. And they're going to go on and on and on with stories. So if you're not an I, hunker down and listen in, because it's going to be a little while. I was recently at a business meeting that was very punctual. They even told us, if you're not here by 11 o'clock, we will lock the doors. And we paid a lot of money for this. And there was one woman who just wasn't there, and we kept going, okay. So 1 minute before, they went and started to lock the doors. And the leader said, no, let's leave it open. We've got a lot of construction going on. She'll be here soon. So 15 minutes into the meeting, she comes running in. The minute I saw her, I'm like, here comes the story. And she was dressed in bling, great big earrings, and she spent the next 5 minutes telling us why she was late. That is our eyes. So remember, ask them a question. You're going to be there for a while. You've got lots of stories to go. Then our S's are slower paced and people focused. They're going to tell you about relationships. They're going to talk to you about who they know, who they're friends with. They might tell you about their children. I watched it last night as we all had dinner. I'm always observing life and different people saying what they were doing. It was not always about what they were doing at our work, even though that's why we're all here. It was often about, oh, well, my children did this, or, my wife just said this, or my husband is doing this. So S's talk about relationships. Now, even if they don't have a relationship in the fact of kids, parents, spouses, they can talk about relationships at work. Or they might even talk about, as one woman did, 30 minutes later, I knew every one of her cats' names. They talk about relationships. Our S's love to talk about who they know and their relationships. And then our C's. Remember, I love our C's, and I'm going to grow up to be one. And what's their biggest fear? It's the fear of making a mistake. So this is what a C does. Well, what do you want to know? Now, a C is not doing that because they want to put you off. They're doing it because they want to get it right. They want to give you the correct answer. So if you encounter a C who is task-focused and slower-paced, help them out. And they say that, just say, oh, well, will you tell me about what you're doing in your work right now? Or tell me about your children. Give them an out because they really want to hit the right answer. And that's what our C's do. One of the things we want to remember about communication in this process, this is the most important thing I've ever learned about personality styles, and I hope that it's new for you all today, is the D's and I's, which are on the top of your sheet, process life at 3 seconds per question, okay? So they take information and they process it at 3 seconds. Then we have our S's and C's. Remember, they're slower paced. That doesn't mean they're slower intellectually. They're just slower paced. They process at 7 seconds. So I want you to envision this. We have a D boss and an S employee. S wants to please, D's on a mission. Both of them are living in their weaknesses and not their strengths. The D starts asking questions at 3 seconds. So did you get this project done? And how about this project? And did you finish this? And by the time he's saying, did you finish this, the S is still on that first question, way back here, and they're feeling super frustrated. And this D is feeling really frustrated because, come on, isn't that employee paying attention to me? I got stuff to do. I got places to go. But if you are in that DI place, I have taught myself when I ask those questions, and I encourage you to do this. When you ask the question and you know you're working with an S or C, because remember, we all have a sign that says, make me feel important, slow down. Actually mentally count to 7 if you have to. But give them the space to answer, and you're going to be amazed at the answers. And then if you're an S or a C, remember, if you're working with a D and an I, get a little bigger, talk a little faster, move a little quicker, and really be focused. Yes, you'll be tired at the end, but it is allowing people to feel important, which is our gifting. All 4 giftings have the ability to make other people feel important in their behavioral gift. And I want to take you back to that living room, to that little gift I had that I put in the trash. As I put it in the trash and I went back to finish packing before I moved, I realized a really important thing. What I realized is I had spent the last 25 years living in someone else's gifting. And through that, I had put on 135 pounds of pain, that I was carrying extra fat in pain. My children had been abused because I had not lived in my gift. So I didn't know at that time what my gift was going to be. I didn't know where I was going to take it. I knew who I was, and I was going to take it someplace amazing. And that's what I wish for you all today. We talked about dreams last night. Meet those dreams with where you are, with your particular gifting. It's an amazing gift. No matter what we have to do, it's an amazing gift. Take that gift, take it into your life, and create the biggest, most amazing 10x dream year you've ever had.